Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. We'll be starting soon. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. We are so happy that you've joined us today. Come on in. Come on in. Please share where you're from as you come in. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And we will get started really soon. Please like, comment, and share this live stream. You're in for a treat. Melissa from Michigan, welcome. We're happy to have you. Carmen from Hinesville, Georgia. Jennifer, she's representing Milwaukee. Hey, Jennifer. Sylvia from Alabama. Hey, Sylvia, welcome. Hi, everyone. We're so happy that you're here. Literacy and justice for all. You're in for a treat. Like, comment, and share this live stream. I see Mississippi is in the house. Allison from Canada, British Columbia, Canada. Happy to have you, Allison. Thank you for joining. As you come in, just in case you are wondering what you can do as you come in, drop us some emojis. Let us know how you're feeling today. Play with the emojis. We have our colleagues who are sharing as community moderators, and they'll be there to help fill the comments and things of that nature. The panelists will as well. Comment, share, like. We have many people from Georgia represented. Angela from San Antonio. Hi, Angela. Happy to have you. New Mexico. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Elise. Come on in, come on in. Memphis in the house. Ro from Bronx, New York. Welcome. Happy to have you. California is in the house. Hey there. Take a few moments to like, comment, and share the live stream as you come in. We sincerely appreciate you joining us. So there again, just have fun in the chat. Have fun with emojis. You know, we like to have fun with those. Post your questions, your thoughts as we go along today. Our teammates are standing by to help. The panelists will field, again, your questions and comments pretty much throughout the conversation today. Hey, Janet from Philadelphia. Happy to have you. Florida's in the house. Welcome to Literacy and Justice for All, the power of diverse stories in pandemic-proof early learning. Wow, what a topic, right? Can't wait to share. We have an amazing group sharing in what I affectionately call the family room today. So let's get ready to have some meaningful conversations. As you are sharing, I want to share with you as well. I am Crystal Gibson. I will serve as moderator for our dialogue today. And in addition to the role of moderator, I am a Birth to Five facilitator for the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy at the Atlanta Speech School in Atlanta, Georgia. So a lot of people representing from Atlanta, right? So I am so excited to be with you. And I have the pleasure of actually working with an amazing group of colleagues there at the Atlanta Speech School. And the philosophies and practices of the Atlanta Speech School are actually made available right here on this platform, also known as Cox Campus. So that's pretty amazing. It's resources. It is so many tools that you could utilize, courses, things of that nature. It's all accessible to you. It's universal. And guess what? It's free. Does anybody else like free like me? That's my favorite price point, free. So we're happy to have you. We're happy to be here with you today. Guess what? I have some good news to share before we jump in. I know you're continuing to come on in and we appreciate that. Please like, comment, share. But I have some good news. Guess what, everyone? Listen up, listen up, listen up, listen up. We are offering a certificate of attendance today. If you're here on this live stream, you will receive a certificate of attendance. There'll be comments in the chat box or on the live stream. There'll be comments shared. It'll be a link where you can follow that link at the end of our live stream and actually be able to download your certificate of attendance. Of course, you'll be responsible for taking the certificate to your organization or governing body to receive whatever credits, but we will provide the certificate of attendance. That's pretty awesome. So this is what I want to invite you to do before we jump in. I want you to take a moment and tag your friend. If you look, I have my phone too. I'm getting ready to tag. If you have friends or colleagues that you feel can benefit from our topic today, I need you to take a few moments and tag them. Share this like really quickly because everybody's been asking, how can I get a certificate? And we have it available for you. We have it for you. So please, please, please go ahead and tag someone. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna give you some time to do that. I'm going to even turn on, I'm going to channel my Jeopardy theme music, right? And I'm going to give you about, let's say it's going to work for me. It may not work for me. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds just to go ahead and tag a friend, tag a colleague. Are we ready? On your mark, get set, go. Tag, 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 tag. Tag, hurry, tag everybody you know. I'm tagging my friend. Come on, let's tag, tag, tag. Drop their names in the comments. I hope you tag someone. I don't know about you, but I love Jeopardy. And so we want to bring up our panelists as well in just a moment, but I want to share the agenda for today so you can kind of know what to expect from our time together. As you come in, of course, we're just giving a welcome to everyone. We're happy that everyone is here. And we just went over our announcements. The certificates of attendance will be available. We are so excited about that. We'll go over some introductions. We'll have some conversation starters. We'll go over some strategies that are pandemic proof, right? They're good for the pandemic, but beyond the pandemic, really, right? And we'll close it out and have questions and answers, but we'll kind of fill the questions throughout as well. So our panelists are coming up. Hi, I'm so excited. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. We have an amazing group. And before I introduce our group, our panelists who've come to join us in the family room, I actually want to ask an icebreaker question on the screen for our participants. And I know we'll participate with this as well, but I want to invite everyone on the live stream to take a moment and share, in light of our dialogue today, share your favorite childhood storybook or the story that you like to share with your children. Go ahead and drop that in the chat. Drop it in the chat, drop it, drop it, drop it. As you are dropping that in the chat, I want to share some of the panelists' favorite books on the screen. Maybe you like some of the books that they've selected. They're on the screen. And so as I introduce them, they'll also share a little bit about why they chose their favorite books. But we want to see your favorite books. We want to see them. So go ahead and take a moment to drop your titles in the chat. Let's see what titles are dropping in our chat. The Mitten, all right. Snowbound, yes. Peter's Chair, that's a classic. The Giving Tree, yes, 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 and yes again. Love the titles, love them. Oh, all the places you'll go, Dr. Seuss. So much fun, right? Okay, as you continue to share, I have got to introduce this amazing team in the family room today. We have on the screen, I'm going to give their titles, but they'll give us a little bit more because we definitely want to hear from them, right? We have Asif Jasani. Hey, Asif. So happy to have you. He is a professional volunteer. He is a partner with CCS Marketing and Technology. We are so happy to have him. And then he's actually a facilitator, an awesome one, with Talk With Me Baby as well. We're so excited to have him. We have Deisha. Hey, Deisha Barnett, who's joined us as well. Deisha serves as the Chief Brand and Communications Officer and Head of Diversity and Inclusion of Choose ATL and Metro Atlanta Chamber. We're so happy to have you, Deisha. CAU love to you. We have Tammy Mullins. Hey, Tammy. Tammy up. Tammy is with us today. She's an instructional support coach with the YMCA of Metro Atlanta, Early Learning Development. We're so happy to have you, Tammy. Thank you for being with us. Got to see your face on the screen. It's coming up. And then also, Quentin Bostic. Hi, Quentin. He serves as our instructional designer for the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. And we're so happy to have him as well. So let's jump in. I'm so excited. So Asif, kick us off. Tell us a little bit more about just who you are and about what you do.
Sure. So first, thank you for having me. And yes, Curious George is one of my favorites. I have Curious George. It's a Ramadan book in my hand. One of the reasons I love Curious George is he's always willing to learn, and that's kind of how I am. Always willing to learn, really having no boundaries, and sometimes that gets you in trouble, good trouble. But that's kind of how he is really wanting to learn all the time. A little bit about me: I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old daughter, Fizza, and a 16-month-old boy, Taj. And they're both the love of my life. They're a lot of fun to be around, very independent. And volunteer-wise, I've been volunteering as a volunteer preschool teacher for the last 21 years as part of the Smiley Muslim community. And I have some of their books here too. And that's kind of what has driven me to early childhood, is my volunteer experience. And I've also, like Crystal said, have been a volunteer facilitator for Hands on Atlanta and Talk With Me Baby for the last, I think, 6-7 years. And it's been a blast. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for sharing about Curious George too. I forgot to say that. We're going to share who we are, and then whatever your favorite book is from the screen, please tell us why you chose that book. So Deisha, come on, tell us a little bit more about your role and who you are and your book selection as well.
Hi, everybody, Crystal and everyone on the panel. It's so good to see you all. As Crystal mentioned, I am her CAU fellow alumni proud from Clark Atlanta University, but I also am Deisha Barnett. I'm the Chief Brand and Communications Officer and Head of Diversity and Inclusion at the Metro Atlanta Chamber. We also run Choose ATL, which some of you all might be familiar with. But I think importantly for today, I'm a mom of 2 amazing boys, a Johnny who is 7 years old, and Taj, not Asif's son Taj, but my son Taj, who is 4 years old. Both of them, Taj is currently at the Atlanta Speech School. Johnny is an Atlanta Speech School alum. I serve on the advisory board at the Speech School, and I'm just so very proud of the work that the school does and everything that I've learned there as a parent and as a member of our community when it comes to developing a reading brain. So my book is A is for Activist, and I absolutely love reading that book to my kids. I might love it more than them at this point in their lives, but I think later on in their lives, they will really appreciate the many lessons that are taught. And I think Crystal will want me to say that I also love it. Not only does it teach engagement in the community and how to advocate for yourself, but it has many, many second tier words. So things like F is for feminist. And so when you're 4 years old and you're learning the word feminist and not just girl or woman, it helps as you're developing the reading brain. And so that's one of the reasons why I love that book. I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Deisha. We appreciate it. Tammy, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us a little bit more.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tammy Mullins. I'm an instructional support coach with the YMCA of Metro Atlanta. I've been in this role for 8 years. I serve the rural areas of Northeast Georgia. I love what I do. I love partnering with the speech school and the program that we participate in. And I can see how this program excels kids in our program from here to My favorite book is Amelia Bedelia, the original Amelia Bedelia, without telling my age. I love Amelia Bedelia because everything that she's asked to do, she takes it literally. So if she's asked to dust the furniture, she takes dust and she dusts the furniture. And as a young child sitting in the classroom, my teacher would read this book to me, and I just loved hearing it over and over and over again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Tammy. And last but certainly not least, my colleague. Absolutely. Come on, Quentin, tell us. Join in the family room and let us know what's going on.
What's going on? How you doing? Thank you for having me here, Crystal. Thanks to the Speech Crew. Thanks to Rollins. Just thanks to everybody just taking the time out to be here today. As Crystal said, my name is Quentin. I am an instructional designer for the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. So that's just one of my hats. I do a lot of different things, but pretty much my life is all around diversity in children's literature, and especially the representation of Black and Brown children in children's literature. So my two books that I selected, two of my favorite books are Suway, which is in the top left-hand corner, and my personal favorite, Crown by Derek Barnes. And the reason why Crown is my favorite book is that it was literally the first time I've ever seen, I guess, my barbershop experience take place in the book. It was the first time I saw like my culture. I saw people that looked like me. I saw my experiences growing up. I saw all these different things in this book. And so this book is something I was exposed to as an adult. And so just really my goal in life is to make sure that all kids are having an opportunity to see themselves in children's books, but also use books as a way to kind of explore the world and discover new things. So definitely looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have some great dialogue today, and we just continue to invite the comments and feedback from our participants on the live stream. I want to share just some big picture kind of takeaways, if you will, that we're hoping to walk away with it from our live stream. We want to just build upon the critical role of strong family educator partnerships discussed in our last live stream. And we want to focus on making the most of story time and developing early literacy skills. That's so very important, right? And then last but not least, we want to discuss the ways that we can build on emergent literacy skills. We want to build on it. So that's some takeaways. And we're going to jump right into our discussions. But I want to start with a bit of research about why interactive storybook reading is so important. Not just reading a story, right? But interactive storybook reading is very important, and research supports that. And it tells us that children are actually more engaged with the story and text when they're involved in the process. Children understand more about the story and the world around them through interactive storybook reading. And then sharing stories in an interactive way provides a meaningful context for learning about new words, similar to what Disha touched on a little earlier. And simply put, the way books are shared with children, even from a young age, it really matters. It really, truly, truly matters. So I wanna touch Asif and Disha on this one. Your amazing parents told us all about your children. How is the research stacking up at home when you're reading stories with the kids? How's that going for in the midst of the pandemic, right? How is storybook time going for you?
So it's actually going really well, and for Taj especially, I think one of the things that this is our nighttime storybook reading, and for those of you know, it's very mom-based. But when I'm reading it, I'm changing it to Llama Llama Red Pajama reads a story with his papa. So and one of the things that we do is we kind of read the same story multiple times. So we're repeating the book, changing our tone, changing even the words a little bit. So even changing the names of the characters in the book. So making it as relevant to Taj and Fiza as possible. And so that's one of the things that we do a lot is repeat, but change it up as much as possible to keep it exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And kids get a kick out of hearing a book multiple times, right? You know, they get more out of it. They love repetition. And we do too as adults, right? I even think about, not only storybooks, but even movies. Like Lion King is one of my favorite movies, and I can watch that a million times. And on the last time I've watched it, I saw something else new. I'm like, did he really do that to Simba? So repetition is meaningful. You can get more and more out of it the more you hear a story or what have you. So thank you for sharing that. Disha, what's going on with story time with the boys? Tell me more about that.
So we are on about day 140 or so in terms of quarantine, social distancing life with a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. It's interesting. And so I would say that right now, my oldest is actually right downstairs reading by himself. He uses Raz Kids, that's his favorite. So he reads and he answers the questions at the end. And sometimes maybe I sit next to him and I kind of engage in the conversation about the book. But our 4-year-old is kind of over the quarantine life and over being asked to sit down and read. And even if I change my voice, I could do all the different things, right? And he's just is over it. But the one thing that really has been working well with him here lately, every single day and consistently, is making up stories together. And so even for bedtime story time last night, we made up a story. I let them talk about, tell us which animal they want to be in the story, and they get to name the animals. And so last night we told a whole story about 2 little bunny rabbits, and he wanted an eagle to come try to get the bunny rabbits. And we used the whole, all of his characters. And he was to add in here and there. And so that's the way that we really are able to keep him engaged, but then also keep him really thinking creatively about the world around him. So that's been working really well. Better for the 4-year-old than actually cracking open a book, if I'm being honest.
Absolutely. And that's perfectly okay. And I'm glad that you shared that. It doesn't have to come from an actual book itself. We can share stories together, right? And it's still very, very meaningful. So I appreciate you for sharing that. And even you touched on it a bit too, like some books are on the iPads or what have you, right? And that's okay. And what I heard out of that, Disha, is that you pair it with language, right? It's not, you're not replacing it, you're pairing it with your language, you're pairing it with your comments and questions so that they can get the most out of that time together. That's amazing. Tammy, chime in for us. What's happening even within your program, within the Y, with story time and how they engage there? Because one thing we want to focus on is how we bridge the gaps between, the schools and home and our early learning centers and programs. So what's happening at the Y with story time? Tell us a little bit more.
So we just finished our summer camp with the Y, and doing that, we also participated in the Read Right from the Start. The teachers were reading start books and tips books because I work with early birth through 5-year-olds. And in our early program, the teachers have been reading books such as My Pretty Brown Face. And a lot of times people think that babies and infants, toddlers, that they don't need to be read to, but we actually read to our babies. And I know one of the things that our teachers had an issue with was they don't sit down and listen. And I would tell them, as you are reading and they're waddling around, they are actually listening to you. And we also make it a habit of, we read the same book 5 times. I think also stated how you might repeat the book over and over again. So we make it a habit of reading the book 5 times. And then we have kids that have those books. I will never forget, Please Puppy Please. That is the book they wanted me to read every single day, to the point where I had 2-year-olds that knew the book by heart. So that's what we've been doing at the Y. And we look forward to the upcoming school year to carry on the program, Read Right from the Start, in our program.
Yes. So how I want to touch on 2 things. Oh my gosh, it's getting good already. So Tammy, you touched on something. You touched on a couple of strategies, right? You said tips and start. And I think we'll zoom in on what that means, okay, in just a second. But I want to hear, how do you bring the parents into what you're doing in the program or at the Y? How do you bridge that gap? So is there any important tips that you share with the families? How do you ensure that everyone is on the same accord with what it means to read multiple times and read in an interactive way? What are you doing there?
So I will say that at the YMCA, we have the best teachers. Our teachers read in the classroom, but they also share what they have been reading in the classroom with the parents. We talk to our parents about the way that we read. And with our Head Start kids, we also have books from the speech school that are actually set up in the way that we read. And we pass those on to the parents so that they can read them at home. And then in our early program, we also do the program where parents are actually not really trained in tips, but we give them like the basics of tips so that when they are at home reading with their kids, they can also incorporate some of the strategies that we use in the classroom. And we also encourage our parents to log on to the Cox campus and create their own account so that they can go in and learn all of the strategies that we are using. It's not rocket science, it's reading.
Okay. Okay, Tammy. Okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you touched on this strategy, right? And everybody may not know what TIPS stands for. So can you walk us through a little bit about TIPS, Tammy?
So TIPS is an acronym that stands for, the T is for tune in. Tune in is where we take the book and we capture the child's interest. We don't just pick up the book and begin to read. We pick up the book and we may do a finger play or we may do a rhyme. We capture the kid's interest to pull them in. The I stands for introduce the book. We call attention to the cover. We talk about, oh, look, I noticed that this is a dad and he's smiling at his baby's face. I wonder why he's smiling at his baby's face. The P stands for promote language. So as we promote language, we pat the vocabulary. We point to the words, we act, and we tell definitions of words that the kids may not know. And you say, oh, what about infants? You tell them definitions? We do, because they hear and they comprehend. And then the S stands for summarize. So after we've read the entire book, we go back through the book again and we point to the pictures and we allow the kids to touch the pages and we allow them to Google, goggle, or babble or do whatever they want to just to keep them engaged while we are actually reading the story. It works so well.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Awesome to hear. And you touched on another strategy that I'm trying to pull up here, Tammy, as well. If anybody has tried any, for our participants, if you've had any experience with the TIPS strategy, drop us a comment. Let us know about it. Let us know so that we can acknowledge you. We'd love to hear more. You touched on TIPS, and I'm coming to you, Quentin, in a minute because we need to know what we're even looking for with the books in a minute. So don't go away. But Tammy, you touched on these two strategies, so I wanted to focus in a little bit more. You talked about TIPS and what that stands for, and again, we can find that on Cox Campus, this platform, right? But then you touched on START too, and I put that on the screen for our viewers and participants. Can you take a moment and just walk us through also START and maybe the difference between TIPS and START?
Okay, so with the START strategy, we read this to our older kids. And the first thing that we do when we pull out the book, we state the title, the author, and the purpose. So if I'm reading Peter's Chair, I'll say something to the extent of, oh, I noticed that Peter has taken a lot of his special things outside. I wonder what made him take those special things outside. I capture the kids' interest. After I state, then I teach. I teach using the think aloud strategies. I wonder, I notice, oh, I'm thinking that the reason why, because the whole thing that we want the kids to do is to learn how to infer, how to think about what they're reading. Outside of what the author has put into the book, we want them to think about, oh, you know what, maybe he was thinking that, his mom didn't love him as much as she loved the new baby. We ask open-ended questions at the end. Why did Peter take all of his things outside? And if I've done what I'm supposed to do during the read, the kids are able to regurgitate exactly what I've told them. Oh, Peter took his things outside because he didn't think his parents loved him as much. He was jealous of the new baby. And then we respond using rich language. If a child says, him was jealous, we say, yes, he was jealous. Peter was jealous because his parents were showing all the attention to the baby. We repeat what the kids said, but we extend on it and we use appropriate language. And then we tie. We don't just read the book and put the book down and say, that's it. We have other activities that go on throughout the day that actually go along with that start book, so that the kids are constantly thinking about that book all throughout the day. And then what I've noticed is my kids, after we've read the book, they'll go home and they'll tell the parents, and the parents will come back and say, you know what, my child came home yesterday and they were talking about jealous. How in the world do they know the word jealous? Why? Because we push that word in throughout the story, and the kids, they have to hear a word several times in order for it to be their own. So our whole attempt is to make sure they hear them, so that they make them their own, and then they use them, therefore increasing their vocabulary and comprehension.
Thank you for sharing a little bit more about that. So I want to hear back from Disha and Asif as parents on this as well, because you shared about the books you're reading with the kids. Are there any tie activities that you've done with the kids that you want to share about or talk about? Any comments there, or even Quentin? Because I know, Quentin, you engage with many children, outside of the speech school, in your community, things of that nature. So let's hear about some of those experiences and ways that we take the book beyond the book, if you will.
I just want to say Tammy is amazing, and I need her at my house. Seriously, I just was eating up everything that you were saying. And I think it's so important, even for us as parents and adults who are studying this work, in order to educate children at home or in the schoolhouse. It's important for us to even hear it again, because the way that some people describe it might have something else resonate. So I just really appreciate everything that you just shared. My one pro tip that I wanted to just offer around what Tammy was talking about with regard to, bringing the books from school into your home. I am a little annoying as a parent, I will admit, because I treat the teachers and the doctors and the school psychologists as if they are my team. We are on the team together, working to help my children grow and learn and reach their full potential. And so I end up, especially in the Zoom environment, guys, in the virtual environment, I have made a point to ask the teachers a week in advance, what books are you going to be reading? Because I know they do the repetition and read the same book for the whole week. What book are you reading this week? And then, I will go ahead and, if I can afford it, get it on Amazon or go to the library or try to find my own videos on YouTube about the book that we can then use at home. So I just wanted to offer that word of advice for parents. And then I can even bring the book to life in different ways at home. If it's a book about a turtle, guess what? We happen to have a turtle in our house. If it's a book about fruits and vegetables, we'll pull out the fruits and vegetables out of the refrigerator and make it really interactive to discuss with the kids. And again, most of the books for my 4-year-old, but it works really well.
Yeah, and it goes both ways, Disha, because like you said, if you're reading with the boys a story at home and you want to share that with your team, right, the school team, then they may expand upon that in maybe centers or whatever the case may be. It works both ways. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Especially in the virtual world, if the teachers know what my kids are into at home, they can keep their attention over Zoom much better.
And then the kids will see that they're a team. They're all working together for my best interest. So that's amazing that you shared that. What else, Quentin? Tell me a little bit more about your experiences, Quentin.
I think like Crystal, you hit it right on the head. I think it's all about knowing it's a team, and that as adults, we're in this learning experience with children, not giving this learning experience to children, because they're two different things. So I think about with everything happening in the world right now, especially in the US with all the protests and things of that sort, there's a book called Let the Children March. And so I read this book to a child, and he was like, well, why are they marching? And what is marching even for? And what does marching do? And so the titles I was able to kind of show him, say, this is what's happening right now in our current society, especially around like Black Lives Matter. And you happen to be a part of this whole movement as well, just being a young Black boy. But taking that and saying like, how can I connect this to a real current event that's happening that children see every day? I like to say kids are like, they're sponges, but they soak up everything now, whether it's on Instagram, Snapchat, the news, TV, everywhere. So just thinking about how we can make these experiences modern and how we can make them current to current times, but making sure we're in this process with them. I always tell students and teachers, you know, like when I share my emotions and my feelings with students, that's how we connect. And so if a child makes a connection to that feeling and emotion, they can make connections to even more greater ideas and concepts. So just make sure you're with the child, not just dumping out this information on kids.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that's worked well for us, especially with our 5-year-olds, is and you can imagine 5-year-olds at this point really are connected to technology, and they want to do everything on YouTube, on our phones, or on their own devices if they have those. And one of the things that we started to do was we started to know that when she went to grandparents' house, there wasn't a limitation on how much TV she could watch. So we kind of channeled that energy towards having her record her own reading and practicing reading. And we actually started to now are compiling videos of her to post on YouTube where other students can learn from her. But that's kind of empowered her to go to the next level. And now before bedtime, she wants to record a story every time she goes to bed. And so that challenges her to listen to herself and do more with the story, right? To do much more with the book, because now she's thinking about what's the environment she wants to have, how she wants to inflect her voice up or down depending on what's happening in the story. So we're trying our best to kind of take her love for technology, but twist it in a way where she's also enjoying reading to the next level.
Love, love, love it. Listen, if you're in the chat, if you are watching the live stream and you have heard some of the ideas shared, or you have an idea to share, drop it in the chat. We want to know about it. We want to know how you're doing the tie activities, how you're bringing the stories to life. Please share that with us. We appreciate it. So I want to ask this to the panelists. Anybody can tackle this one. How do we ensure that all children receive these opportunities, that all children know the importance of, stories, that all families really understand this? How do we ensure that? Equitable learning opportunities and rich story opportunities for all. How do we ensure that?
So I think there's a lot that goes into that question, Crystal. It's a variety of things. It can be the disproportion that we see in publishing of minority children within children's literature. It can be, teachers may not have the strategies or training they need to have these courageous conversations, or even maybe personal implicit biases that we have. There are some conversations that I've heard teachers say, I'm not ready to have yet, or I'm not okay having until I examine my own personal biases, my own beliefs. And so I think that, these books, they serve as like, not only just ways to share ideas and knowledge, but they're also cultural artifacts too. Books mean so much to people. And I know Disha talked about this, oral language and oral stories, that's huge in my community. It's huge in my household and how I grew up. And so these stories being passed down from generations to generations are oral artifacts. And so these books that we see, whether they're bound by these strings or they're virtual or even speaking on YouTube, these stories matter. And multiple stories matter. If we don't have multiple stories, how can we discover the new world and the world around us,
Absolutely.
And I wanted to add that it's important to kind of take, a lot of us have dual speaking languages in our households, or even tri-languages. It doesn't have to be only English stories. The kids are going to get that in school regardless. So at home, even if you can engage your grandparents, your other adults in the household, and really take the family in whichever language the parents or the adult knows, whichever language the child is learning, and do stories in that language, I think that gap we talk about will sort of disappear with the family being a huge part of that engagement.
Absolutely. And you're right in alignment with what the chat is talking about, bilingual books. So thank you for sharing that, Asif.
Crystal, I'm gonna come off mute to jump in, but Tammy doesn't look like she's looking in the chat. Tammy, the chat loves you, so you gotta have something to say to the people. But I will just say, to your point, Crystal, around how do we make sure that more people, everybody, children knows about these strategies. I just think about the African proverb, each one teach one, because we all know that information is power, and access to information, even if you are somebody who is in a sort of privileged position, right, when it comes to information, like Quentin has a lot of information, but Quentin also doesn't know what he doesn't know, right? So I would just say, when you learn something, it is on you to teach somebody else and to share that knowledge with the parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, others that are around you. So again, I've learned so much at the speech school, books to read, tips and strategies. And I try to share those with people as much as I can, because information is power.
Share, 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 share. Yes, Tisha. Tammy, you want to jump in? You have a fan club going. What do you want to add?
I like what Disha said about sharing. I know we were at a conference in New Orleans. I think it was the ILA. And I'm there telling people, oh, you should log onto the Cox campus, trying to tell them about the way that we read books. And I'll say, when I first started doing this, I was like, you go to college and they teach you how to read a book to kids. This strategy is totally different. So I'm like, is this gonna work? Is this so? And the light bulb went off for me in one of my pre-K classrooms. We read a book at the beginning of the year entitled Owl Babies. And it talks about a mother owl leaving to go take care of her babies, and she's nocturnal. At the end of the year, I read The Scarecrow's Hat to the same classroom. And one of the little girls was like, Miss Tammy, I know why that owl needs a blanket. You remember, she's nocturnal. She needs to sleep during the day. And I'm like, wait a minute. I read that book in August, and here it is May. And this child still remembers nocturnal. She still remembers the story. This works. And I also used it on my grandson. I have a 9-year-old grandson now that is going to the 4th grade, that reads on a 7th grade level, and he comprehends on a 7th grade level, only because I read to him and I took every strategy that I learned at the speech school and I utilized it with him, and it works. It is so important. And wherever I go, even when I'm at other school systems, because I come from a family of educators, I'm telling them, this is what you guys need to, this is what you need to do. Because I feel like early education is the foundation for all future learning. If you don't get it here, you can't go back and recoup it. We as early educators are the most important educators, I feel, in the realm of education, because we set the foundation that others build upon for the future. And that's just my own belief.
Wow. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. We have a question here, and anybody can tackle it. Anybody can tackle it. They are asking, how do I encourage my son to read without it feeling like punishment?
I would say,
look, who can add Awesome?
Awesome,
go for it. Go for it, Awesome.
So one of the strategies that we have is called READ, and the D stands for do more with the book. I think if you, well, I'll go ahead and say what the strategy is. R is for repeat the book, E for engage and enjoy, A for ask questions, and then D for do more. So start backwards. Just do more with the book, whichever book it is. Make it live for that, your child, and just go to the next level. If it's about the zoo, if it's about animals, go to the zoo. If it's about something that they're really interested in, read the book where that environment is. So just do more with the book and start backwards is what I would say.
Just as a parent, I agree completely. And I do think that, we have to mirror things sometimes. So we're so used now to reading things on our devices. Like, I think as parents, we have to crack out a book, right? Actually put a book in your hands and let children actually see you also enjoying reading. I think that is very important. Or see you reading a hard newspaper. I know I sound real old school, but I think it's critical, because we have to mirror these things for our kids. And then I do also think that, and I keep saying this, I don't want people to think I don't actually read books to my children. We read books and we try to make it fun. But, I give them stickers. They put stickers all around the bathtub, and then we tell a story that kind of goes through all of the stickers. We involve all the different stickers in our story at bath time. We listen to podcasts, and we pause it every now and then to ask questions or to discuss some of the things that are happening in the podcast. So I think, if you're kid is not into reading an actual book, there are other ways to bring language and train a reading brain.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Go ahead.
I know one thing that stood out to me. I know I taught preschool and pre-K for many years, and I had this same challenging conversation with many kids. I don't want to read. I don't like reading. I don't want to read. They rather throw the books than read them. But one book I realized they would not throw is the book they made themselves. And so giving students the agency to create their own books was the starting foundation for. So cool, there's not a book you want to read. Let's make one. What do you want to read about? What do you want to write about? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to say? And there's so many concepts that come into giving a child a voice and saying, like, I'm going to give you the power right now to use your voice and put it in a book. And you're going to be able to share your voice and your knowledge and your ideas with everybody out there. And from that point, kids were like, okay, well, this is my book. I'm going to write another one. And maybe I can look at this book to see how they wrote their book. Or maybe I can look at this one, and it just kind of triples on and on and on and on. I mean, and once they have that power, they're unstoppable.
Unstoppable. Absolutely. I put up on the screen the strategy that Asif referred to is the read strategy. Did you want to say a little bit more about this? I can't believe this, guys. We have 10 minutes left. So we're going to touch on this strategy. Quentin, I want you to tell us some characteristics of books, right, that we need to look out for. And then we'll take a few more questions and close this out. So Asif, did you want to add anything here?
No, I think we kind of hit it on the head that repeating the book with every child is so important. And then the second piece, which is engage and enjoy, it's really about even adding the tier 2 words that Disha mentioned earlier. And I'm sure we can put a resource about tier 2 words in the chat. And then the open-ended questions really take the story to the next level. And then we talked about do more with the book already. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Quentin, what do we need to look for? What are the characteristics of the books that we need to look for our children? Let's start with our infants and toddlers, please, sir.
Yes, of course. I think the biggest thing is that when I was with this age range, we needed books that were durable and that survived. So definitely books that were bright in colors and had the text and illustrations, but also books that were surviving teeth marks, being thrown and ripped and everything. So of course, board books, and just really great concepts. Of course, the concepts around counting and alphabets and shapes is great, but also don't forget the power of the story. Children are listening. They're always listening. So do not feel afraid to throw in a book that may be a little more advanced, and you can kind of just talk through it with the child and point to pictures and point out different images and things that you see. So don't be afraid to kind of step out those board books, but they do last. They're pretty durable at this age range.
Love it. Should we look at maybe preschool, pre-K?
Yes, and so this is actually one of my favorite age ranges right here. This is where they learn sarcasm and they learn how to tell jokes, and I love it because we get to play with it a lot with books especially. So with this age range, they're really starting to think about these different world ideas. They're thinking about who they are. They're building their self-identity. And so a lot of these things revolve around, some, of course, fiction and nonfiction text, but a lot of these books have more sophisticated vocabulary that you may not see in some of those board books and things that you see. And also the story plots are more complex. The settings and characters are a little more complex as well. So you still see the foundation there with the text and visual images and things of that sort, but these books are a little more sophisticated. But like I said too, with books, I read kids' books and get so much out of them. So I don't want people to get stuck on this book is for this age range or this book is for this age range. It's about the story, the discourse, and the theme that's coming out of it. And as adults, we're here to be like the knowledgeable guys or like the mentors to talk around these texts. So feel free to definitely talk around these books. I mean,
absolutely.
I even use poems for this age range, poems and narratives and all kind of things. So
that's awesome, Quentin. Thank you so much for sharing that. Man, you all have a fan base. Asif, they wanted more on the read strategy, so I'm going to back it up. And please just remember this, everyone who's on the live stream, you can play this back. So if you wanted to get more information off of the PowerPoint, all of this will be available to you on Cox campus and on our Cox community groups on Facebook. I'll get back to it in a second. My screen is.
And Chris, I'm gonna add one more thing to this. I
Yes,
feel like
please do. Yes.
this. So the biggest thing, and this is, as a teacher, I did this. I used to just grab books and recommendations from friends and not read them, and then get in the middle of the classroom and read the book, and I'm like, this is not the most appropriate book. So the number one rule I always recommend is pre-read your books. I don't care if it's a picture book, if it's 3 or 4 pages, please pre-read the books. I mean, that makes a big difference. And I tell myself to also think through different lenses when I read books. So if I read a book the first time, let's think about how women are represented. If I read the book the next time, how is race represented? If I read this book this time, how is sexual orientation represented? And so as you kind of get into the theme and the traction of reading books through these different lenses, you'll start to uncover that there may not be the best representations for people within these books. So it is a critical lens that you can think through that will probably change your world of children's literature like it did for me, because there are a lot of books that I love that I do not like as much anymore.
Love it.
Also super important for the do more strategy, right? So you have to read the book and know what's happening in the book in order to really, be able to bring it to life for your children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we want to share where you can find some of these resources on Cox campus as well. And then we'll take a few more questions from our participants. So drop your questions in the chat for us. Here's some resources for you if you want to check them out on Cox campus. So we have a summer experience going on as well. Shine Your Light 2020 summer experience. And so here's some unit topics here on the screen that you can look into. And then the actual resources for the strategies that our panelists shared: tips, start, and the read strategy. And again, you can always play the video back to get this information. And we appreciate that. So any questions, drop us some questions. Drop us a question or two before we close it out. And our panelists will kind of give us a closing thought each, but we want to hear from you. So any questions for us in the chat? And now as we wait on those questions to come in, please, let's go in the reverse. Quentin, give us a little bit more. Tell us some closing thoughts, some takeaways for our families and viewers. What do you want them to know? What do you want them to remember?
I guess, one thing that's coming to mind is just stories matter, and multiple stories matter. I mean, it's one thing I think about this all the time, is that because I'm in the world of studying Black and brown children's literature, I'm always thinking about, what types of books can I find that represent Black and brown children? But I have to think and tell myself that Black and brown children are also very different in abilities, in their religion, different in their social class, they're different in all these different aspects. So it's one thing to say, you're doing something for this purpose, but you have to think about the individual child and always keeping the child at the center of your focus. And so I'm big on intersectionality. I mean, that's a popular term right now. I encourage you all to think about intersectionality, and Kimberly Crenshaw and her work around that. But it just helps to think about that, you're more than your race. Your race, your religion, your social class, your sexual orientation, your X, Y, and Z. You're so many different things. And so think about when these kids come to your class, there's so many different things. They have so many things in their backpack that they bring into the classroom. And so as a teacher, it's your job to really unpack it, to see what's happening inside their backpack, find out their story, and find out how you can use their story, their culture, and their beliefs to make them the best person that they are. So there's a danger to a single story. So think about and use multiple stories.
Love it, Quentin. Thank you for sharing that. Tammy, what are your closing thoughts for our viewers today?
I know Quentin just said something about the backpack, and it makes me think about the year we did the Fill My Backpack. And one thing I can say about the books that we utilize with our strategies in the classroom, they are very diverse. We talk about women, we talk about Black kids, we talk about brown kids. We have a compilation of just a variety of books. We don't just focus on one thing. We try our best to hit every ethnicity that's represented in our classrooms. We just try our best to promote diversity in our classroom with our readings, whether it be a book from our Read Right from the Start collection, or whether it be a book that we pull in from the outside. And I think diversity is really important in the classroom. I think it helps the kids to see outside of, just, whether it be your ethnicity. We want to talk about, I'm a female, you're a male, just bringing it all in so that kids get a wide variety of things to make them a whole person. Like Quentin said, they come in, we don't know what they are, but we want to expose them to everything to see and to expand on what they're learning in the classroom.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Tammy. So very important. Disha, we want to hear from you.
So I'm going to be brief. I think that my mom was an educator. My mother-in-law is a retired school principal, and I'm a mom. But I think that teamwork always makes the dream work, and it is as much my responsibility as a mother who brought beautiful children into this world, as it is the responsibility of an educator to prepare them and help them grow and blossom into everything that they are meant to be. And so I just will encourage even the parents that are participating to take advantage of the Cox Campus, read 30 million words, study up on all of these tips, and try to apply them in your homes, but also give yourself some grace, when you need it, especially in this COVID-19 sort of era that we find ourselves in. We all just got to try our best every day.
Every day. Thank you so much, Disha. And Asif, any closing thoughts?
Sure. I have three quick things. One is have fun with reading. I think sometimes, a lot of people ask me today, what do you read? I say, I read a lot of emails, and sometimes you forget how fun reading is. So one would be have fun with reading. Two would be volunteer as much as you can with kids if you don't already have them. Or if you're a teacher, I know you probably need a break and don't want to see any more kids when you get home. But volunteer as much as you can with the skills that you have as a teacher or an educator. And finally, share your knowledge with other parents. I think not every parent, like all of these tips that were shared today are so simple that if parents were just familiar with just the basics, I think we all would take all of our kids to the next level together.
Yes, and yes again. Thank you so much for joining us in the family room for talking about this very important topic, literacy and justice for all. We appreciate it. Don't forget, participants, please look in the comments, follow the link so that you can receive a certificate of attendance for joining us today. We certainly appreciate it. We hope to see you again soon. Share. Thank you so much. You all have a great rest of the afternoon.